think that somebody would wait 40 years and then less than 30 days before the general election come out and make allegations.
We're going to speak straight to the American people and cut right through the fake news media.
Mistakes are precisely the reason the people should trust them.
So let's begin with our top story. All eyes on Alabama, the state's critical special election, just hours from the finish line. GOP Senate candidate Roy Moore setting the record straight one last time as his opponent launches some brand new attacks. Griff Jenkins live in our nation's capital with what is at stake, and there's a whole lot at stake, right, Griff?
That's right. Good morning, Heather. We're coming down to the wire. Alabama voters going to the polls tomorrow. But this morning, they're waking up to a robocall from President Trump, a final push for the embattled Republican Roy Moore.
Get out and vote for Roy Moore. His vote is our Republican Senate, and it's needed. We need Roy to help us with the Republican Senate. We will win, and we will make America great again.
Moore, who has been running as an outsider, was noticeably absent from the campaign trail this weekend and avoiding reporters, but called into a radio show to again defiantly deny all allegations of sexual misconduct against him and attack the Republican establishment, who has refused to support him.
The Republican establishment actually wants Jones in there because they think they can beat him in 2 years without a contest. And, of course, the Democrats want Jones in there for their vote.
Meanwhile, Doug Jones barnstormed the state with a last-minute push from establishment Democrats like New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, who flew in to join him on the campaign trail. Jones took a shot at Moore, accusing him of not being accessible to the voters.
What kind of public servant hides and goes only into enclaves and doesn't address the media? I'm going to be as accessible after this election as I am now.
Jones also received some support on Twitter from Hollywood stars like Mark Ruffalo and Patton Oswalt, but Moore maintains a slight lead in the polls and plans to close out his campaign tonight with a large rally, Heather, featuring, among others, Steve Bannon. We'll see what happens.
All right. Thank you so much, Griff Jenkins, live for us this morning. We appreciate it. Well, also new overnight, the U.S. launching missile tracking drills with South Korea and Japan as North Korea warns that war is on the way. Let's get right to Amy Kellogg, who is live for us in Milan with the very latest on that. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning, Heather. Well, this isn't the first time that North Korea has threatened this. And of course, when the idea of a possible naval blockade was floated to keep banned goods from reaching North Korea, Pyongyang said that would be, quote, yet another declaration of war. So this isn't new. And these were the drills that took place on the Korean Peninsula last week between the U.S. and South Korea. Now, this week, missile tracking exercises are taking place between Japan, South Korea, and the U.S. In response to last week's exercises, North Korea said this meant that, quote, the outbreak of war was an established fact. Here's the U.S. ambassador to the UN.
If North Korea attempts to threaten or do anything to destabilize us or our allies, we absolutely will utterly destroy them.
Of course, North Korea has been testing missiles with increasing intensity this year. Yesterday, 2 tectonic tremors were detected in North Korea, believed to be aftershocks from its declared H-bomb test in September. Yesterday, we got a glimpse of Kim Jong-un up on Mount Paektu, said to be a sacred place because it was the birthplace of the original North Korean dictator, Kim Il-sung, though in fact he was born in the Soviet Union. Now, finally, Heather, the anti-nuclear weapons group that won the Nobel Peace Prize this year and was given that prize yesterday had a very grim warning, saying the total destruction of humanity by nuclear weapons was just one impulsive tantrum away. Heather.
Amy Kellogg live for us this morning. Thank you very much, Amy. Appreciate it. Well, now to a Fox News alert for you back here at home. Fear gripping Detroit as police reveal a connection in 4 freeway shootings. The hunt intensifying for whomever is opening fire on drivers along Interstate 94. The hail of gunfire started last Thursday. That driver shot in the leg. The driver is targeted in more shootings Saturday, managed to escape injury. Police now increasing police patrols all along that highway. Also, while you were sleeping, the most destructive wildfire raging in Southern California just got bigger, if you can imagine, scorching nearly 250,000 acres. That is larger than the city of New York City. The massive inferno forcing brand new evacuation orders in Santa Barbara. Hurricane-force winds fueling the flames, making it the 5th largest wildfire in history. 6 out-of-control blazes still burning all across the state at this hour, and could get even worse, we're told. There's no rain in the forecast at all this week. So pray for all those people out there. Well, the pressure rising as Paul Manafort and Rick Gates head back to court this morning. Prosecutors expected to provide Manafort's lawyers with a collection of records, roughly 2,000 of them as hot, which are the most important to the defense team. That's what that means. Well, special counsel Robert Mueller indicting the former Trump aides on charges of conspiracy, money laundering, and foreign lobbying. Well, President Trump hitting the links in Florida with Lindsey Graham, but doing some work talking tax reform. The Republican senator joined President Trump at his golf course in West Palm Beach as the House and Senate work together to join their separate tax bills. Hopefully, that's what they're trying to do. Well, Graham tweeting this: Trump International Golf Club is a spectacular golf course, a great day of fun playing with President Trump. This, as Representative McCarthy says, that the GOP is making great progress in the fight for tax reform.
Every step we've taken with taxes where we've come closer, what's happened with the markets? How many times have we set a new record in this stock market, which I will say, based upon the move we did with regulation and tax?
Well, Congress hopes to get the historic tax reform bill on the president's desk by Christmas. Well, the time now is about 8 minutes after the top of the hour. And the woman who live streamed the brutal beating of a disabled President Trump supporter is off the hook. Why she won't spend a single day behind bars.
If you are made fun of, just don't let it bother you. Just stay strong, I guess. It's hard.
This is so sad. A middle school student breaking down about being bullied. The viral video, you have to see, it's catching the attention of some A-list celebrities as well, and the First Family, their incredible show of support. And President Trump putting fake news on notice with some real facts about the booming economy. Our next guest here to explain why consumers and business. Welcome back to Fox and Friends First. President Trump slamming the, quote, fake news media for refusing to cover the economic boom under his presidency, with consumer confidence at its highest, unemployment at its lowest in nearly 2 decades, by the way. Shouldn't this be headline news? Here to explain what the mainstream media is not covering is chair of the program in business and finance at the King's College in New York, Brian Brimberg. Brian, we always love having you here.
Good morning. Good to be here.
So this is some good news. We can actually take a look at some of those numbers that we were just talking about in terms of consumer confidence. You said that it is the highest that it's been in 17 years. Yeah. And then the unemployment rate, the lowest that it's been.
Yeah, the story here is very interesting. If you look at consumers and you look at businesses, their confidence levels are at the highest levels we've seen, in a decade, 17 years. People feel really optimistic about their economic future, and that's not getting a lot of coverage in the news media.
And we also had the number of jobs created just in November, 228,000.
Yeah, a very strong number in manufacturing, by the way. Things are trending well on a number of fronts here. People feel good as they look to the future. They feel like their wages are going to go up, which they need to, by the way. That's been lagging a little bit. They feel like job openings are there. They can find a job. They can change jobs. So when you look at how people are spending their money, how they're thinking about their money, which I think is a really good indicator, by the way, of how people feel, they feel very good. They're optimistic about where things are going.
Well, you know who feels that it's not being covered appropriately? That is President Trump. And look what he had to say. He sent out a couple tweets on Sunday. He said things are going really well for our economy. Subject the fake news spends as little time as possible discussing stock market hit another record high. We didn't talk about that. Unemployment now at a 17-year low. The company's coming back into the USA. Really good news and much more to come. And then he has another tweet talking about, getting closer and closer on the tax cut bill, things shaping up. You can read the rest of what he had to say there.
Yeah, no, look, the news media, politicians, pundits always like to pay attention to polling numbers. I'm an economist. I like to follow what people are doing with their money, because I think that's a better indicator of how they feel.
Well, you're an economist. We'll listen to you then.
The president's right. People are voting with their dollars, and they're saying we feel good about where things are going. And he does deserve some credit for that. President set the tone for the economy. He has set a positive tone. He said we want jobs back here. We want to create economic growth. People are feeling that, and they're responding to it. And you're seeing it show up in the job numbers.
And he set the tone before he even came into office. I mean, it was something that he campaigned on and something that we see is happening.
Yeah, and that's why you saw small business confidence numbers really spike right after the election to record high levels, because they just felt like they were going to get relief on some things they need relief on. They wanted fewer regulations. They wanted lower taxes, and that's what the president's been focusing on.
Right. Well, with the tax cut plan to come, and the House and the Senate both trying to come to some sort of agreement and terms, how do you think that will impact the numbers?
Well, I think they'll continue to promote strong numbers into the year ahead. They have to get this done. I mean, one of the things is he's promised a lot. He set the right tone, but they have to deliver now. They have to keep deregulating. They have to continue to cut taxes. That's going to be important to sustain this. We have a good start, but we're in the first quarter, Heather. There's a lot of game to play. The president actually acknowledged that in Pensacola. He and Congress need to make sure that they finish the job they've started.
Yeah, and he can't do it himself. He has to have some cooperation.
No, it's a team effort here. Congress has to act. The president has to act. They have to be on the same page. They have to be focused and disciplined on this agenda. And if they can do that, I think 2018 will shape up to be a pretty good year. But it's going to take focus. We've seen them fall down on health care. You can't do that with taxes.
Right. You say you predict that it will shape up to be a pretty good year, but we still have those people. We hear them. We see them on Twitter, social media. Oh, doomsday is coming. Enjoy it now while you can.
Yeah, the future's unknown. You can always claim the sky is about to fall. And look, we don't know what's going to happen next year, but right now, all the economic indicators are pointing to continued strength. The one thing I'd like to see more is wage gains. Wages haven't grown as fast as we'd like them to, but I think with the tax cut and more economic growth, you'll start to see that as well.
All right, Brian, thank you so much. We always love the good, positive news. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Well, the time now is about 16 minutes after the top of the hour, and President Trump putting fake news on blast, calling it a stain on our nation. But according to the mainstream media, it's a good thing?
Mistakes are precisely the reason that people should trust the media. It's the process of bringing truth to light.
Okay, does fake news make you trust the media more? We report, you decide.
We're wearing hats that completely violate our space policy. Does this hat have a racial slur on it? Have to go. What is the acronym stand for? Fascism, Nazis, okay?
And college students kicked out of a so-called safe space coffee shop for wearing Make America Great Again hats.
Our club, we're wearing hats that completely violate our space policy. Does this hat have a racial slur on it? Have to go. What is the acronym stand for? Fascism, Nazis, okay?
Well, a group of conservative college students kicked out of their campus coffee shop for wearing Make America Great hats again. Well, the reason, apparently they violated the so-called safe space policy. You heard some of the conversation there. Campus Reform correspondent and Fordham University student Aaron Spring was one of those students, and he joins us now live. Aaron, thank you so much for coming in early this morning and joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So we were just discussing right before this segment began whether or not you can wear your hat. Yes, you can wear your hat here, but apparently there at that coffee shop you can't. Is that what you were told?
Well, yes, the people who were wearing the Make America Great Again hats were told to leave simply because they were wearing a Make America Great Again hat, and they were told to leave after they had already patronized the coffee shop and bought coffee. You know, and after they were kicked out, a few people actually tried to attack me for my USA hat, but I'm a New Yorker. I stand my ground. I wasn't leaving.
So explain what kind of coffee shop this is. This is a student-run coffee shop, and it's on campus?
Yeah, it's a student-run coffee shop. It's a club, and it's on the university campus. And it prides itself in being a safe space and saying that all are welcome to their coffee shop. So long as, of course, you have the same views as those who run the coffee shop, so it seems.
Yeah, but so when they mention safe space, there are some specific groups that they talk about being safe to come there, right?
Well, they not specifically, but in terms of who's not welcome there are, I guess, people who support Donald Trump and people who support the Make America Great Again movement, as we were directly quoted as saying we violated their safe space. So apparently it's not a safe space for those types of people.
Yeah, I understand they have some safer space rules, though. They have do not make assumptions about someone's gender, their sexuality, their race, class, or experiences. They also say, no racism, no sexism, no homophobia. But you can't be conservative, right?
Right. Don't get me wrong. Some of the people in there were very nice. Some of them were very open-minded and welcomed us. But the people who ran it, and the president specifically of that club, did not tolerate us, and as you saw, they kicked us out. They called us fascists. They called us Nazis. They were not tolerant of our views simply because we were conservatives.
And here's what Fordham had to say. They did give us a statement. They said that there is no university safe space policy, nor one that excludes any members of Fordham community from any public spaces on the basis of their political views. The university is still investigating the incident, and students who may have violated university code of conduct will be met with the appropriate student conduct process. Does that satisfy you?
To some extent, I appreciate that Fordham did that, and but overall, I think it's up to groups like campus reform and people such as myself to continue to fight, because in reality, conservatives on college campuses are treated as second-class students, and we need to rise up and really fight for our rights, especially our God-given right to free speech. It's endowed to us by our Creator, and we have every right to, as Americans, to express this.
And isn't that part of the reason students go to college, young people go to college, to be open to different and varying viewpoints, to learn from each other? It seems that is not happening these days more and more.
No, absolutely. I think you're right, and it seems as if the loudest voices are the most radical, especially when it comes to the far left. And as I said before, many liberals are tolerant on campus, but it's like I said, the loudest and the most radical are the ones who seem to be running things, and the ones who seem to be treating us as second-class citizens, and they're the ones who seem to be always getting their way, and it's frankly quite ridiculous.
Yeah. Aaron, thank you so much for coming in and bringing this to our attention, and we'll keep an eye on it. Let us know what happens, okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, now some other headlines for you this morning. One of the black teenagers seen torturing a white disabled man live on Facebook. Do you remember this? Well, apparently one of those folks will not spend even one day behind bars.
Donald Trump, white people, boy.
This is crazy. Thanks to a plea deal, Brittany Covington sentenced to just 200 hours of community service and 4 years probation, avoiding a 33-year prison sentence. The judge saying that he doesn't believe jail time would benefit the 19-year-old woman. The horrifying attack, it happened in Chicago, was streamed live on Facebook, sparking nationwide outrage. The 3 other suspects charged have yet to be sentenced. Well, messages of love and support flooding social media after this heartbreaking video of this young man crying over being bullied, and it's gone viral. Listen.
If you are made fun of, just don't let it bother you. Just stay strong, I guess. It's hard.
So heartbreaking. Tennessee middle schooler Keaton Jones says that students call him ugly. They pour milk on him just because he looks a little bit different, they say. Celebrities are among the 21 million people who have watched the video, and they're now reaching out. Dale Earhardt Jr., one of them, tweeting this: "Add me to your long list of friends, Keaton." And UFC President Dana White offering to, quote, "bring Keaton to Vegas and hang out at UFC headquarters." You should take him up on that. And Donald Trump Jr. then says if Keaton accepts that offer, quote, "I would be honored to host him and his family at our place if they need somewhere to stay." Yeah, and the hashtag I'm with Keaton is trending across Twitter. So a lot of us are with you, Keaton. Well, the time now is 26 minutes after the top of the hour, and Democrats trying to hold the federal government hostage to protect dreamers. But President Trump says, no way.
They are demanding amnesty as a condition for funding the government, putting our national security at risk. We cannot allow it.
Would Democrats really take it this far, or are Republicans the ones playing politics? Our political panel on deck to debate. Welcome back to Fox and Friends First, 4:30 in the morning here on the East Coast. President Trump taking his war against the media to a new level. The president denouncing what he calls fake news media and calling for firings after a string of major reporting errors are exposed. Todd Pirro joins us now with the escalating war of words. Good morning, Todd.
Heather, good morning to you as well. At least 3 media reporting errors this past week were corrected by reporters and or their news organizations, prompting a Twitter attack from the president president yesterday afternoon. He wrote, very little discussion of all the purposely false and defamatory stories put out this week by the fake news media. They are out of control. Correct reporting means nothing to them. Major lies written, then forced to be withdrawn after they are exposed, a stain on America. All right, here's the timeline. First, it was ABC News correcting a Brian Ross report that incorrectly accused Donald Trump of directing Michael Flynn to make contact with Russian officials before the election. Then it was CNN correcting a report that incorrectly said Donald Trump and his son Donald Jr. had received an email allowing them access to hacked documents from WikiLeaks before such documents were publicly available. And finally, Washington Post reporter Dave Weigel issued an apology to President Trump for tweeting a photo of an empty arena prior to a Trump rally in Florida that had been taken hours before the event started. Nevertheless, some argue that misreporting actually bolsters trust in the media. Take a listen.
Mistakes are precisely the reason that people should trust the media. It's the process of bringing truth to light. The worst mistakes that press organizations have made in the coverage of Trump has precisely occurred in their overzealous effort to be fair to the president.
That prompted Donald Trump Jr. to tweet out the following. So this week is precisely why people should trust the media? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Have you lost your mind? Mainstream media happy getting their narrative out there and forgetting about the truth, only did so when forced to by people with large enough platforms to call them out. Sadly, most don't have that. So, Heather, the fake news conversation not going away.
All right. Todd Pirro joining us live, and we will continue that conversation, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we want to know from everyone at home, what do you think? Does misreporting really bolster trust in the media, or does it hurt it? Weigh in now on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or send us an email to friendsfirst@foxnews.com, and we will share them a little bit later. Well, President Trump taking a stand against the far left after Democrats continue their stonewalling on deals, all in an effort to push their immigration agenda.
Democrats in Congress not only oppose our efforts to stop illegal immigration and crack down on sanctuary cities, now they are demanding amnesty as a condition for funding the government, holding troop funding hostage, and putting our national security at risk. We cannot allow it.
So are Democrats putting party ahead of the American people? Here to debate is former Chief of Staff to Senator Mike Lee Boyd Matheson and former candidate for chair of the DNC and Fox News contributor Jimmu Green. Thank you both for joining us very early this morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Heather.
So, Jimmu, I'll start with you. Is the Democratic Party stonewalling when it comes to immigration?
Absolutely not, Heather. I think when you look at the original inception of the DREAM Act decades ago, and all of the conversations we've had about comprehensive immigration reform, for anyone to say that there's a stalling, there is a real need for us to move forward and to stop using, especially these dreamers, as a political football, as we've seen from this administration and as we've seen from previous administrations. I think these young people who know no other country but the United States of America, who many of them have served in our military, are wanting to contribute more than they already do to their communities. They need an answer.
And nobody disagrees with that, right, Boyd? Nobody disagrees with that. Even President Trump, he gave them 6 months, both Democrats and Republicans, to work something out in terms of DACA, and now here we are.
Yeah, it's definitely a leadership problem on both the left and the right. The one thing we know for certain this week is your email box is going to be flooded with fundraising emails from the left and the right on this very issue. And the problem is we're not having the real discussion. We're allowing the loud and strident voices on both ends of this debate. And it's one of those that I think should be done on the floor of the Senate, not connected to a spending bill, not connected to a continuing resolution. But let's debate it on the merits, because as you said, and I think Jimmu would agree that, look, this is something we can get together on. These are people who have a lot of uncertainty that's just getting the political football back and forth as we go along. And I think it's time to have a real conversation about immigration and how we really move the whole thing forward, not just the Dreamers, but broader things as well.
And there are about, 800,000 young undocumented immigrants who have taken advantage of the DACA program, which is the Deferred Deportation Program that President Barack Obama actually created back in 2012. Do you agree there, Jammu, in terms of opening up the debate, having a public debate, and taking this away from the spending bill?
I think that on one hand, we would hope that this would be able to have a discussion and a decision outside of the spending bill. But Heather, we have to be realistic here. This is politics. And right now you've got Republicans that control every single branch of the government. And when you have the leader of the Republican Party really being the one who is standing in the way of getting a DREAM Act passed.
But he's not standing. How is he 6 months to come to some sort of agreement?
Well, he didn't need to pull the program away under, pull the foundation and any sort of sense of like stability out from under their feet. There certainly could have been a better legislative way of dealing with this. And Democrats have to, use the only leverage that they may have on this issue. That's how politics works. I hope that we can have both sides come together on this. And we have to keep in mind, this is not a fringe issue. This is something that John McCain was a champion of, one of the original champions of.
Well,
there are dozens of Republicans who agree with this legislation.
Including President Trump, who just wants something worked out in terms of allowing them to stay, but perhaps not a direct path to amnesty. That's where I believe there's some discrepancy there in terms of what people think should happen. Boyd, what do you think? Your last word.
So again, this is a leadership problem on both ends of the spectrum, and again, we got to quit tying it to all these other things. Every time we create an artificial cliff, then we end up with these massive bills that nobody reads, and we end up with bad decisions for hardworking Americans, for these dreamers that have a great deal of uncertainty. We can do better. We have to expect more from our politicians than what we're getting right now. Instead of saying what they're telling us, which is it's just the way it is in politics, we got to expect more, not less, if we're going to move this forward.
Expect more. That's good. That's a good way to end this. Thank you both for joining us. Appreciate it this morning.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour, and the White House hitting back at the Palestinian leader for refusing to meet with Vice President Mike Pence as protests rage after the U.S. recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. We're there live. Up next.
I hope to represent the people of the United States, not the president.
And Olympic skier Lindsey Vonn made some headlines for bashing the president, but now could her trip to the games be in jeopardy altogether? And here's a list that you better check twice. Last-minute shipping deadline.